Hello, I'm so excited to be sharing space and time with you today. My name is Asya Kaki, and I will be leading a workshop today on the quantum field and electromagnetic signatures and how you can create your electromagnetic signature using the energy of your body through your mind and through your thoughts. So to get started, I'll just give you a little bit of basis on how I got interested in all of this and how it had a profound impact in my life. So my personal story is that since I was a child, had eczema literally covering my entire body. And throughout my life, depending on what was going on, it kind of ebbed and flowed. And as I reached adulthood, I was tired of all the pharmaceutical options that never really healed the root cause of the eczema that I was experiencing, and I also had acne. So I started to look into alternatives, and it kind of led me down a rabbit hole of pursuing wellness and health, and I started learning that health is multidimensional, right? There's the physical body, like we learn in yoga, the bone structure, the muscles, all of that. And then beyond that, then there's the energy body. And so I started becoming interested in how to change the energy body. And it was through meditation that I had so much amazing things happen, and that's why I'm here today and I'm sharing this with you. So most of what I learned is from the teachings of Dr. Joe Dispenza. If you are familiar with his work or have read any of his books, then you will definitely resonate with what I'm saying today because it's very powerful and exciting. So I'm going to be working off some notes. So when I look down, that's why I'm looking down. The first thing that started to help me change what I was experiencing in the world was first just to become conscious of why I was experiencing what I was experiencing. And so I started to journal, and this is a journal activity that you can do in your own life as well. It's a journal activity that anyone can do, and if it resonates with you, I highly recommend starting your day off with the questions that I'll outline during this workshop. So the first question, and I use this every single day when I wake up in the morning, the question I ask is, what is the greatest ideal of myself I can be today? And so during this workshop, you're going to need a couple things. The first thing you're going to need is a journal that you can write in. And the second thing you're going to need is a index card if you have. And if you don't have an index card, you can just use a piece of paper and cut it and create a piece that's similar in size to an index card. So throughout the workshop, I want it to be kind of like an interactive workshop where I'm in it with you, so that it's kind of real time, that you're actually getting to process, because I think that we learn not by listening but by doing. And so if you have your journal, go and grab it real quick. I'll give you a second. And then let's answer the first question together. So what is the greatest ideal of myself I can be today? So when I respond to this question every morning in my morning journal, I try to write my response in positive affirmations that are in the present tense. So it's not I will be this way or I want to be this way, but it is I am positive affirmation, right? So I'll give you a second right now, and then I'll also share what I wrote down just so that it can be a little interactive. So again, the question is, what is the greatest ideal of myself I can be today? All right. So hopefully that gave you enough time to reflect on this question. And I will just read my response just to give you an idea. Like if you are stuck and if you've never journaled before, you might find this really new, but that's totally okay. Whatever you wrote is perfect, and it's awesome because it's where you are. And I've been doing this exercise for over how many months now? Almost like a year now. I think I started last summer, so a little bit less than a year. But it's amazing how my thoughts kind of evolved, because the person I became, like the person I was last June or July, is completely different than the person I am today. And I think it's just about growth, and that's the exciting thing. So I'll read my positive affirmation of what my greatest ideal of myself I can be today is. I am radiant, full of love and vitality. I am strong and healthy, and I find ways to support my friends and family through teaching. So just a quick statement, doesn't have to be too long. So the reason that you write a positive affirmation like this is because what fires in the brain wires in the brain. And so by starting your day with this type of strong intention of what it is that you want to be, like what's the greatest version of you that you can be in your day, you're literally creating neurocircuits in the brain. And when you create neurocircuits in the brain, it's like they come together. And when you do it like over and over and over again, so every single day I'm journaling and I'm asking myself, and I'll notice that like for a few weeks, there'll be similarities of basically where my headspace is at. And then once I evolve further, then it kind of changes and morphs into something else. So by doing it every day, you strengthen those connections in your brain, and you're actually starting to create like possibilities in the quantum just by thought alone, right? And I'll explain a little bit more about this as we go on. So thoughts are the language of the brain, right? So what we are thinking is the language of the brain, and emotions are the language of the body. And Joe Dispenza defines how you think and how you feel create your state of being, right? So basically, if you want to change how you're experiencing reality, you actually have to change what you're thinking and how you're feeling. And throughout this workshop, I'm going to go more and more in depth about how this is changing. So I love this quote, and I'm going to share it because it's a beautiful quote. It says, "Watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny." So we're so incredibly powerful. Like if we realized how powerful we were, we would be super careful on every single thought that passes through our head, because we would realize that these thoughts that we're thinking are actually creating our reality. So how do thoughts actually become physical? In his book, he talks about how there's this theory of collapsing the wave function. This is kind of if you're familiar with quantum, then you know about this. But basically, collapsing of the wave function showed that when scientists went to measure an electron, they basically they went and looked, and it was waves. And then by their awareness being on the electron, by their awareness being in trying to measure an electron, the waves actually turned into matter, right? And so the same thing is happening when we're thinking something, when we're thinking some possible futuristic, experience that could come to be, because our thoughts are actually creating waves, and when we do it enough, we're collapsing the wave into matter, right? I'll give a couple really two quick examples that are just like both kind of crazy and wild. This was before I even knew about what quantum physics was and collapsing of the wave function. I had a party at my house, and I had all these guests, and I was serving everyone tea, and I had just like plastic Tupperware, and the tea was like inside it, and it just kind of felt really not fancy. And I just told my best friend, I was like, I really wish I had a beautiful tea box, one of those wooden tea boxes. And I described it, and before I knew it, it was like Monday morning, and some random client, I'm a photographer, I had given her some free images, and she was really appreciative of the gift of the free images. She sent me a wooden tea box. And when the package came up, my husband was like, something came. And I was like, well, I didn't order anything. But it was literally like I put my intention into the universe and it delivered. The same thing had happened to me in the negative as well, right? So like if you say, I don't want this, it's still creating an electromagnetic signature. Even though you're adding a negation, it doesn't really matter because you're still putting that energy out there. So people always say like, don't fall. Well, it's just an invitation to fall, right? So I was driving one day and I had been on vacation and I forgot to put my car charger back in the car. And so when I got into the car, I said, oh my goodness, I really hope I don't get into a car accident today, because if I do get in a car accident, I won't be able to charge my phone. And before I knew it, I was on the George Washington Bridge. I was coming back from Manhattan and someone rear-ended me, and I looked at my phone and it was like 1% battery, and it was basically exactly like to the T as I had envisioned it. So it's like we are really creating our reality both in the positive and in the negative. And so it's just like start to become aware of this, right? Like if you aren't already, most of you probably are to a certain extent, if you are in this yoga community, because a lot of us are, you know, interested in how we can evolve as humans. And so I know that yoga community attracts people who are already on that path, right? I'm just going to clearly define what the electromagnetic signature is. I've kind of been dancing around it, but I'll just clearly define it right now. So the electromagnetic signature is composed of two things. Thoughts are the electrical charge in the quantum field, and elevated emotions are a function of the coherent heart, and feelings are the magnetic charge in the quantum field, right? So basically, some awesome feelings that you can have to draw things into your life are gratitude, appreciation, thankfulness, inspiration, freedom, kindness, selflessness, compassion, love, and joy. So beautiful. I love even just speaking those high vibration words because it fills the space with so much good energy and I can just feel it. So basically, thoughts and elevated emotions are what the two aspects that create an electromagnetic signature are. So now that you know this, we have the power, right? I mean, it's super exciting because you can just be like, okay, I'm going to think about what something that I want. And it's like, you never want to feel like there's a disconnect between that thing that you want, because when you feel like, I, for example, have a friend and she's going through a really nasty divorce, and she goes, well, I really want my house and I really want to have full custody of my kids. But when she talks to me, I'm like, what you're saying is showing so much disbelief that you actually have those things. And so like she feels so much separation. So I encouraged her to write down affirmative statements like, I live in my beautiful house with my children, with full custody of my children, whatever you want, instead of feeling that disconnect like you don't have that, you can start writing and thinking those thoughts in the affirmative, and it will totally change the energetic frequency that you are putting out. Okay, so the next prompt that you can write in your journal is what thoughts will you fire and wire? And this is again for the beginning of the day. So I will read the prompt one more time slowly. What thoughts will you fire and wire today? And so I'm going to also answer it so that I can share, and just take a moment to do this now. We're energetically sharing space, and so I wish I could hear your response, but even so, I will definitely share what I am thinking in terms of what thoughts I will fire and wire today. And again, you want to start the statement as I fire and wire positive, or sorry, I fire and wire and then ... Okay, so hopefully you had a second to write down a couple things there, and I will I will share what I wrote down. And again, you want to be writing in the present tense, if you didn't already remember that, and try to speak with positive language, right? So I wrote, I fire and wire positive and beautiful vibrations to the world around me. I inspire my friends and family. I radiate love and acceptance for all. I breathe through any difficult situations. And so it's kind of like setting a beautiful intention for the day, and when you do this, because you've written it, like if a situation arises and you see yourself maybe like slipping into a vibration that's different than what you identified in the morning, you will almost kind of like check yourself, because it's like, hey, well, this morning I wrote down that I was going to, I end this, right? You wrote down affirmative statements of what you actually are. And so then it really changes the way that you actually will act and respond in the real world. Okay, awesome. This is going really well. So let me move on. So awareness allows us to change the very act of self-reflection helps us transform our old habits. So I just will share a quick anecdote here. So when I was like covered in eczema, right? I had a lot of anger. And that was probably what was causing the eczema in the first place. But basically, like I would go to the kitchen, for example, in the morning, and if my husband didn't put away the dishes exactly how I had wanted them to be, I would start getting angry. And then this anger would spiral, and it was like I would be like angry at every single thing he had ever done wrong in the last 10 years. And when I started to break the habit of anger, it was like, because I had written the positive affirmations in the morning, I was able to catch myself, right? So one morning I went out and all the dishes were not put away how I had wanted them. And now I'm a little bit less of a control freak because I've evolved, I've changed, right? But at this time when I was dealing with all of these issues, I was very controlling and very angry. And so I went out and I saw that the dishes had been not put away properly. And it was like, I just like took a deep breath. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to send him love instead. Like, it's okay. He probably had a busy morning, right? And so I used that negative vibration that I was so used to, and I kind of like rewired, right? Like it was like what fires in the brain, wires in the brain. So I thought this was a really, really cool analogy, and I'll just explain it right now. So it was explaining how, like, if you think about a forest, right? There's tons and tons of trees in the forest, and, there's hiking paths that are defined. So those are kind of similar to our neural pathways, right? The thoughts that we think all the time are like basically those hiking paths that are worn into the ground. There's no bush or anything on those hiking paths, and the dirt is showing, and it's super easy to walk on those paths, right? The same thing is for our brain. So if we are constantly wiring the same thoughts every single day and thinking like the same things. So if my program previously had been like anger, right? Like, oh, I'm so angry at him. Like he's done all of this stuff wrong towards my husband. And instead, I had to start creating a new pathway. And so in the beginning, it's actually really hard. It's like you're holding a machete in your hand and having to forge your way through this thick jungle and rainforest and start to create a new path. And I was like, I had to choose love, right? I had to choose positive vibrations. And it was hard because my program, my default in this forest, the easy path would have just been to be angry and get upset. And so by choosing the different pathway, it was an amazing experience of like really, being resilient and choosing the hard way, right? So the next prompt is an awesome prompt, and it says, write affirmations that will help you begin to rewire the brain to overcome any areas that you want to begin to reprogram. So this is, for example, is this the next page? I think so, yeah. Give me a second right here. Oh, sorry. I think I hole punched it the wrong way. So let me actually go back, and it says, when we will come to that prompt, but I first want to do one other prompt first, okay? So when we create from a state of wholeness, there is only knowing and observing. The key to manifesting reality is being connected, not separate. And I love, this is another quote, and it's from Daily Om. And I love this quote because it's basically that whole idea that I was talking about with my friend who's getting the divorce, right? Like she felt so separate, right, from that reality of like having the house with her kids and having full custody of her kids. But she had to start breaking that energetic disconnect and really start to feel that she actually had it. And that's what this quote basically means. So the next thing is, the next prompt that I want to share is change the way we act and speak, okay? So you can further change your energetic body by mentally rehearsing how you will act and speak. So the prompt is, how does your higher self act and speak? So take a moment right now and again, write it in present tense with positive language, and spend a couple minutes and let's write and share together. I will telepathically listen to your responses when you guys are actually doing this day in the course, and maybe there will be a way that we can share. I'm not sure how the platform is going to be set up, but if there is, I would love to hear and connect with you, beautiful beings. Okay. So again, the prompt is, how does your higher self act and speak? So you could start with I act, and then blah, 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 and then I speak, blah, 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 blah. There's crazy weather. There's like snow falling outside. So cool. All right, beautiful beings. Okay, so I will share what I wrote, and I wrote, I act in a graceful way and find joy and love in every moment of every day. I speak from a place of love and utmost sincerity and kindness for all people I meet. So, and then basically it's kind of a check, right? Like, so if I start slipping into negative language, or if I act in a very rushed or ungraceful way, because I set that intention, it will be kind of like my subconscious, because when we're first thing in the morning, when we're journaling and doing this, basically our subconscious then starts to like come on board and starts to believe that. So then when we're acting out of alignment of what we wrote down, then it kind of like acts as like a check and balance, which is kind of really cool. Okay, cool. So, and I gave an example on this worksheet. I'm not sure if you guys will have access to this worksheet. I really hope you do, because it's awesome and it spells everything out in case you want to do these prompts later on. But an example that I wrote was, I act in a generous way and always express gratitude whenever I have anything in my life. I feel abundant always, versus I'm not greedy anymore and try to share. And I'll just speak to this point really quickly. So I, for a very long time, had a scarcity mindset, and basically was scared that I would not have enough food. And you might like laugh. You might be like, oh, well, that's kind of silly. But you know, many people are scared of different things, right? Like some people are scared of birds or dogs or different types of animals or amphibians, snakes. I don't know what your fear is. So, you know, when you were writing these prompts, it's actually kind of an opportunity to overcome, you know, fears that you may have, like deep-seated fears or things that you're actually working on. And so at the time when I created this workshop, I was really working on being able to just give away all of my food, to not feel a scarcity mindset, to really come into abundance, right? And scarcity mindset had been so much part of my life because it was part of my programming. It was probably something that came in from generations and generations. I mean, maybe members of my family, like way up, had experienced famine or something like that. And as a result, you know, it comes through generations. So the traumas that we heal, the healing work that we're doing and that you're doing right now is basically like amazing. I mean, just like give yourself a pat on the back, because it's truly transformative, and it's generational work that's not going to affect just you, but it's going to affect any offspring that you may bring into this world, or any children that you may adopt, or even just people that you meet, right? Like you might be able to share this knowledge with someone else, and it may help them have a total breakthrough in their life. So know that the work that you're doing is really important, and you know, give yourself a hug and a pat on the back and say like, well done, you know? Okay, So we want to rewire any negative thought patterns. In order to change, we must become conscious of what may be holding us back, right? Do I feel like a victim? Am I greedy? Do I live in lack? Am I selfish? Do I blame? Do I complain, right? Remember, when you practice, what you practice, you become very good at. If you practice complaining, you will become an excellent complainer. The opposite is also true. If you practice being grateful, you will become a grateful person. And I hope that this course has the magic going on during it. I think it does. The magic was truly transformative to my life because it showed me the power of gratitude. And it's been something that I continue to practice because, like I said, what we practice, we become very good at. So every single time, for example, that I eat like a morsel of food, I just like hold in my heart like so much gratitude. It's like it flows out of me because I've been practicing gratitude, and I'm just like, oh my God, I can't even think about eating this food without thinking about the global community, right? Right now, we're in the middle of Corona, and yesterday I was on a conference call for a foundation that I'm part of, and we were talking about approving funding for $17 food parcels for people who are in India who have literally just been laid off from their jobs, right? Like everyone had this mandatory shutdown overnight. And basically, these people, $17 buys them like a big bag of lentils and a big bag of rice and oil and sugar and salt and like the basics. And so like every single time I eat now, like my mind goes back to that, right? Like I start to think about those people in India, and I start to feel so much gratitude, and like it's just a part of me now, right? I am a grateful person. I see the good in everything because I've wired myself like that, right? I wasn't always like that, and so the amount of change and transformation you can have with a simple exercise like what I'm sharing is so transformative, and that's why I'm so excited and passionate about sharing this with all of you. So we have to start becoming aware of what are the things that are holding us back, right? So like I explained about my personal anger, and my God, you guys are going to be like, anyway, I'm not going to say that. Anyway, but basically, we can transmute any negative or lower vibrations into more positive ones. That's the point, right? And awareness or self-reflection allows us to start to do that. So awareness allows us to change. The very act of self-reflection helps us transform our old habits. Wow, did I write this? Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm laughing at my own jokes. Okay, so now the prompt is to write an affirmation that will help you begin to rewire your brain to overcome any areas that you want to begin to reprogram. So maybe, think of the things that, just think of one thing that's kind of holding you back. Are you a victim? Are you greedy? Do you live in lack? Are you selfish? Do you blame? Do you complain? So there was a full moon yesterday night and the night before, and the thing that I decided that I wanted to release was self-criticism, right? And criticism of others, right? Because I'm still doing it on a subconscious and conscious level a little bit. And so that could be the thing that I'm working on. But you could do anything, and maybe just write down the thing that you're working on, like the lower vibration habit that you're trying to transform. And then below it, let's write down affirmations that will help to begin rewire the brain to overcome any areas that you want to begin to reprogram. So like, for example, if you feel like unworthy all the time, a positive affirmation could be like, I do my best and my best is good enough, or I am worthy. Instead, for example, you would not want to write, I now no longer want to feel not good enough, right? So you never want to write the negative. You always want to use positive affirmations. Okay, cool. So, and during the first time I taught this workshop, I'll just give another example just in case you're feeling stuck, was I was really scared. We had a very transformative experience during my yoga teacher training, and I was really scared because I was lucid dreaming and experiencing a lot of, different realities, like coming into my astro kind of energy body when I would go to sleep. And so I would start seeing things like owls in my rooms and angels and different things. And so it was a lot to deal with. And so I was having trouble sleeping because every night I would have like these visitors. And so what I wrote down is like scared was the emotion that I was trying to overcome. And the affirmations that I wrote were, I am divinely protected at all times. My love for myself and others radiates bright light. I am safe and always can connect with the divine. So those were affirmations that were helping me start to overcome the fear that I kept feeling, or the scaredness that I kept feeling. So spend a second, identify one thing that you want to work on, and then the positive affirmations that that will help. And I'm going to use the one that I used for the full moon from 2 days ago, and kind of help myself write some great affirmations for that. Okay, so I wrote down 4 different affirmations and I will share them. So the negative or lower frequency that I'm trying to work through to change that energy into a more positive vibration is I am, the self-criticism that I feel for myself and the self-criticism that I have for others. Because we're always a mirror, right? Like we're always a mirror to everyone that we see. And so like if we are criticizing ourselves, we're also going to be like criticizing other people. And so when we can work on that within ourselves and start to like love ourselves, then we can actually love other people, right? That whole idea of self-love is really powerful. So the 4 positive affirmations that I wrote are I see the divine light in myself and others. I connect to my higher self. I radiate compassion to other people. I accept and love myself and others with unconditional love. So it's all about like acceptance and compassion and love, right? That's really what it boils down to for this one. Sometimes if you feel really broken or any other emotion, you could say, I feel whole, or there's many ways you can work through this. And if you need any help, like feel free to reach out to me. We can connect, via Instagram or the WhatsApp group. I'm always here and full of love and wide open arms because I love talking about this stuff and helping people with it. Okay, so the next thing that I will discuss, so I think that those 2 are done. Now brainstorm an area of your life where you struggle. This could be a phobia, a health issue. Okay, so we already did that. Basically, I will discuss a little bit about another thing that is called mental rehearsal. Okay, so this is the act of mentally rehearsing an outcome, like mentally rehearsing a scenario differently than what you may experience it, right? So I'm going to give an example because otherwise it probably won't make much sense. So for 10 years, after like from my honeymoon until last summer, June, when I started this new meditation technique, I would get an allergy. And this allergy would be like literally hives all over my body every time I stepped into the sun. And so our nervous systems, right, our autonomic nervous systems, it starts to store programs based on our life experiences. So many people maybe experience like allergies to different things, to fruits, vegetables, or to certain times of the year. So it's an autonomic response. It wasn't like I would go in the sun and I would be like, okay, body, time to hive. No, it would happen, right? It was like an autonomic response, an auto response of the body. And so in order to overcome this, and I was able to overcome this, I started to mentally rehearse a different outcome, right? So I would envision myself going into the sun in meditation space, and I'll teach a meditation at the end of this so that you guys can kind of experience the different techniques that I learned and how I use them. So I would imagine myself going into the sun and seeing the sunlight all over my body, and then basically I would see my skin glowing and healthy and happy. And so what I was doing by doing that is I was going into the autonomic nervous system in the meditation, and I was mentally rehearsing a different outcome. I was almost making like a quantum signature or stamp of a different reality that I wanted to live in. And you know, you can do this for anything, right? Like for allergies, like if you're suffering, or even if you've had a past trauma. Many of us have had, you know, different traumas in our life, and maybe we can go and use this type of meditation to mentally rehearse a different outcome, right? And we can kind of let go of the pain and suffering that we experience by just mentally rehearsing like just a positive kind of a different reality. Okay. So basically, when we have really emotional things happen to us, that's when we create memories, right? And the environment signals the gene. The end product of an experience in the environment is an emotion. Genes create proteins that are responsible for the structure and function of your body. So if you can create an elevated emotion, you are now signaling the gene ahead of the external event, down-regulating disease and up-regulating the genes responsible for health. You therefore can control your genetic expression through thoughts and emotions. And so Dr. Joe gives this example. If you follow his work, you're probably very familiar with it, especially right now, where he had participants for, I think it was a 3-day or 4-day workshop, just be in gratitude. They would just practice, you know, being in gratitude. And I always explain that, you know, what we practice, we become good at, right? And so right now, especially with what's going on in our political and social climate, if you are one of those people that kind of floats through life and you pick up, we're all empathic, right? To a certain degree, we're all empathic, which means that we pick up, or you could call it mirror neurons if you want a more scientific term, but we pick up on the energy of other people, right? So if I'm walking by someone who is super happy, I might start feeling super happy. But if I walk by someone who is like super fearful and negative, I might also feel that vibration and start to mirror that vibration back, right? And so I think we have you know, a unique opportunity to really start through the practice of meditation, or through what you're, you know, this type of journaling exercise, or however you want to do it, basically start to practice what you want to feel, and maybe become a little bit less reliant on your external environment to be dictating the emotions or the frequency that you want to feel. Especially right now, like for example, I went grocery shopping yesterday, and it's like everyone is in fear, right? Like not everyone, but like 90% are in fear. And so if I'm going to be kind of this empathic mirror to everyone and just pick up on everyone, well, I'm going to start being fearful, right? Instead, I have to choose and use meditation and use these techniques to really choose the emotions that I want to feel, right? If I want to feel happy and centered, I have to create that, right? And then I can also think of myself as having a bubble around me, and that if any negativity is coming or any lower vibrations, I can just see that that bubble is protecting me, and that those lower emotions are literally just bouncing off of me, right? And in that way, I'm choosing the electromagnetic signature that I want. I'm choosing the emotions that I want. I'm choosing the actions that I'm going to take, and in a way, I'm creating, I'm creating the life that I want to live, instead of just kind of like you know, being like a pawn in in a chess game, right? So the participants practiced gratitude for 15 minutes, 3 times a day in the study, and they just chose elevated emotions of gratitude. And the SGA, the immunoglobulin, right? Immunoglobulin is the protein responsible for the health of your body. It's like getting a flu shot, except way better, because you know your nervous system is the best pharmacist you'll ever meet. So it's chemicals concocted perfectly for your specific body. Well, the participants' IgA levels, just by being in an elevated emotion 15 minutes a day, 3 times a day, I think for 3 days, something like that, went up by 49.5%. 49.5%, literally just getting a flu shot just through their thoughts alone. So they didn't need anything external, but they were able to create those thoughts on their own. And so that's why, like, practicing meditation and practicing like opening your heart and feeling love and feeling gratitude and all of these things is so important and so powerful, right? So we are literally reprogramming the subconscious mind by all the stuff that I'm discussing. Okay, so the next topic that I want to move on to is how to actually reprogram the subconscious mind. I'm just going to put my phone in airplane mode just because I didn't realize I didn't do that, so just give me 1 second. Okay, that way no one will call. Sorry about that. Okay, so one technique that Dr. Joe talks about in his book, and it was really profound for me, and this was when I started to really see things shift, and this is something that any of us can do, and it's a really powerful and awesome thing. It's basically a technique where it's called a mind movie, and the way I interpreted this from his book was that I found images and quotes that embodied the new field that I would like to attract. I spent time collecting images of my favorite inspirational quotes, images that spoke to my higher self, or things that I wanted to draw into my life, and have a collection of these images. Every morning and every night, I look at these images, right? So the subconscious mind is really powerful, right? We all know this. What we look at first thing in the morning and what we look at right before going to bed, it's like our subconscious mind is open. And so we're in different waves of the brain, right? There's like beta, there's alpha, there's theta. So when we wake up, we're in this like theta state where we're very receptible. And when we go to bed, same thing. And so like a lot of, if you notice, like I'll just say like kind of the negative version, and then I'll talk about the positive. So like, for example, if you watch TV, I don't actually have a TV or watch TV, but I've been to people's houses and I used to have a TV, so I know what comes on. But if you notice like late night television, right? They will show images and they will show text at the bottom, and they will all be pharmaceutical ads, right? So they'll be like, if you've had chickenpox, then there's a high chance that you will have shingles. And if you experience X, Y, or Z, then you may have shingles. X, Y, or Z drug can help, right? So it's like basically they're showing you images and they're flashing text, which is basically completely going into the subconscious mind. So all of a sudden now you think you have shingles and that you need this drug because they are literally speaking to your subconscious mind. So what I'm explaining, this mind movie concept, is basically doing that, but you're the one writing the script, right? So some of the images that I found were people that looked like me, but like the version of me, like when I was like, for example, I used to have eczema like all over my arm, my neck, all over my fingers were swollen. So I found images of people who had like, beautiful skin. And I found images of people who had strong, healthy bodies. I found images of people doing things that I wanted to do, like maybe traveling to beautiful places or living in beautiful spaces. because whatever I wanted to basically attract into my life, I found images of that. I also found quotes, right? Quotes that made me feel really good and positive, and there were things that I wanted to do. So one of the quotes, for example, that I have in my mind movie is from Mahatma Gandhi said, "The weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is an attribute of the strong." I love that quote, right? Other quotes that I have are about love and the power of love. I love every cell of my body is a great one, right? So basically you can create a collection of these images. I usually just put them in an album on my iPhone and then just kind of like flip through them morning and night, morning and night, morning, night. And it's just like literally training your subconscious mind to be like, okay, that's what I want now. So instead of wanting shingles, you can try this instead and do it for things that whatever is something that you want to draw into your life. Okay. So one of the main purposes of meditation is to move beyond the analytical mind. What separates the conscious mind from the subconscious mind is the analytical mind. As you slow your brain waves down, you basically start to go into this space, and it's really powerful, right? The conscious mind, the thinking brain, is responsible for like 5% of the thinking, and then 95% of what we do is in the subconscious mind, which are those programs and habits that we just do autonomically, like automatically. Like when we wake up in the morning, we go and brush our teeth, and then we make coffee, and then we go and check our WhatsApp, or maybe you'll start checking your images and journaling and doing yoga first thing in the morning instead of, hopping on social media. And but anyway, we basically do a lot of things kind of like in a program or a habit. And so when you start using meditation, you can kind of disrupt your programs and habits and start creating what you want through these powerful techniques that I've been outlining here, like the mental rehearsal and the reprogramming of the subconscious mind. Okay, so meditation technique number 1. I'm going to explain it, and then I would love to be able to walk you guys through the meditation as well. So meditation technique 1, choose a different potential in the field. So the technique that Dr. Joe describes is you close your eyes. He doesn't say connect to breath, but I feel like that's a great step to just help you center yourself into the present moment. Our breath and the connection between emotions is really prominent, right? So like if we're breathing like really shallowly, we might feel more anxious, where when we're breathing slowly and deep, it's really hard to feel an anxious thought when you're really breathing calm and deep, right? Then after you connect to your breath, you can look at the space behind your eyes. And then he explains how you become no body, no one, no thing, in no time, in nowhere. And then you envelop into pure consciousness. And so when you drop your sense of body, right? Like you're literally disconnecting with your physical body. No one, when you say no one, it's actually like all of the identification that I'm a girl, all of these labels that we put on, I'm this religion, I am this, I am that, right? So no one, it's kind of like disconnecting to all of those I am statements of identity that we use throughout. No thing is like just completely no physical thing. I don't actually know what he means by that. I don't think I can explain that properly. No time is obviously like no time, and then nowhere. So you're literally enfolding into the quantum field, right? And when you're in the quantum field, it's like you're just waves of potential, right? And then it's about projecting the electromagnetic signature you want to draw into your life, connecting with the new field of energy. And so when I was covered in eczema and I had a lot of acne, basically it was like I would be envisioning what I want and then feeling the elevated emotions as if that stuff had already happened. So I was like letting my body on a cellular level feel the new potential that I was creating, right? So so that was pretty cool. If you do this every day, what you create exists in the quantum field. and the work you have done will draw what you were looking for towards you in the way in which you least expect it, right? So I'm going to give you two amazing examples because I feel like stories and examples are what connects the most. So Dr. Joe's daughter was like, Dad, she was 16 or 17 years old, or 15 or 16 years old when this happened. And she said, Dad, if all of this talk of like electromagnetic signature and drawing the future towards you and all of this stuff is actually true, then as a 15 or 16-year-old girl, what I want most is a shopping spree, a full paid shopping spree where I can just spend as much money as I want and have it paid for by just like for free, right? So he said, okay, fine, it will definitely happen. I mean, he had no doubt in this technique that he's developed that this would actually happen. And so basically what he did is he had her meditate with him every morning. And every morning they would mentally rehearse this future potential of this shopping spree. And she would envision the shopping spree and feel it with every cell of her body and allow herself to feel as if that experience was already happening. And she did it over and over and over and over again, right? And then one day she calls him up and she goes, Dad, it happened. So he said, okay, tell me about it. And the thing is, like, it doesn't happen as we expect it to happen. It kind of happens like as we least expected it. Like, it almost surprises us because if we expected it, then we created it. And it was like, in the quantum field, it kind of like finds you. It's kind of weird. Anyway, so she was out with her friend shopping, and a random man came up to her and her and her friend and said, are you so-and-so's daughter, to her friend? And her friend replied, yes, I am so-and-so's daughter. And he said, well, your dad did a huge favor for my company, and here is my corporate credit card. Go and enjoy and spend as much money as you would like. And then next question Dr. Joe asked his daughter was, how much money did you spend? And she said, well, I spent $16,000. She bought gifts for herself, for everyone she knew, and she spent all this money, right? So exactly as she had envisioned this shopping spree, it came to reality, because if you create an event in the quantum field and rehearse it over and over and over again, it will definitely come to fruition. And I think as we are moving, like, I mean, right now there's a lot of talk of 5D consciousness, and my understanding is that, like, basically manifesting and all of this stuff is going to become even more like prominent in 5D, right? 5D is this idea that we are moving from a 3D Earth to a 5D Earth. 3D is like polarity consciousness, 5D is unity consciousness, and you know, in this 5D reality, it's like space and time is all going to be really different. So, I mean, right now what I'm saying is kind of relevant to what I've experienced in maybe 3D, but who knows what exists in 5D, and if this information will still be relevant moving forward in the next few years. I mean, it's a time of so much change and so much kind of like good, exciting things that are going on. Okay, and then let me see. Okay, so I'll explain two more examples. So, like, I personally kind of had kept wanting like an experience with the divine. I wanted a mystical experience, right? And so during my meditation, I would first, you know, like imagine I had really good skin, and then mentally rehearse like going out in the sun and having, like, you know, the sun not affect me. And I just kept doing it, and like literally by the fourth time I had gone in the sun, it was completely healed. So it happened, like the healing was instantaneous. And prior to that, I had tried everything. I mean, if I tell you how much I had tried, since I was like a child, I would be going to the doctor with my mom, and they would be prescribing me like this topical steroid and this topical thing, and nothing ever really worked, right? I had to change my energy body, right? I had to change and release, you know, maybe things from past traumas or past lives, or who knows, right? Like, I had to release all of that stuff and come into a higher vibration in order to have like really true healing, right? So the other thing that I would rehearse in addition, so I would do, I was saying I did all of the, you know, typical pharmaceutical Western medicine type things. And then I also did a lot of like healthy stuff. So like I would work out and, do celery juice, and I got really into Medical Medium. But Medical Medium, if you're familiar with him or if you're not, he basically is the guy who started the whole celery juice movement. But I would listen to about 3 to 4 hours of Medical Medium a day, and he had a lot of podcast episodes, and he does. But when I was listening, he talks a lot about viruses and bacteria, and so just like placebo is true, like if you think something is positive, like this, you're like taking a fake drug and it makes you instantaneously better, or you feel like you have maybe a bubble around you and you're all of a sudden protected from viruses. Like you can think about it in positive ways, or you can think about it in negative ways. And so when I was listening to with a lot of Medical Medium, I was making all of the nocebos come true, right? Like I was scared of going to public toilets, and I was scared of everything because I was literally thinking that bacteria and viruses were everywhere and they were going to get me. And so I had to really change my frequency from that and detach to, like, I think his teachings were great, like eating lots of fruits and vegetables and, raw foods and things like that are very good. Like it's an excellent idea. But, what I found was even more prominent than just eating really awesome foods is the thoughts and the energy that you're putting out, right? Like even one example I just thought of right now is like yesterday I was combing my hair. My hair is like super long because of quarantine and I haven't been able to cut it. But when I was listening to Medical Medium, every day he was talking about like unhealthy liver. And so I convinced myself that I had a really unhealthy liver, and basically I started getting every single symptom that he described. And one of the things he described was like how your hair will fall out. And so my hair started falling out. And like yesterday I took a shower, and when I showered, like such little hair came out, like almost none. And it's like every day in my journal, like I'm writing, I'm so grateful that I'm healthy and I have a healthy body, right? So I'm not thinking about hair falling out and an unhealthy liver. I've changed my frequency and like my point of focus to like having a strong, healthy body. And it's like, that's what's coming to me. So it's just amazing how our thoughts are really creating our reality, right? Okay. This is crazy because I've never talked for so long without having someone talk back at me. So if you're watching this, you want to just say something back and I'll just receive. Well, thank you. Okay. So the other thing that I would mentally rehearse in my meditations was like an experience with the divine or a mystical experience. And when I was deciding to go to Full Circle yoga teacher training for my 300 hour, I basically told all my loved ones, I was like, I'm going to India again. I had gone to India for my 200 hour and I was like, I'm super excited. I found a school. I wanted to go to Rishikesh this time. I wanted to change it up from the ashram that I had visited the first 3 times that I had been to India. And basically it was like everyone in my family was like, no, don't go to India. Like my sister said no, my dad said no, everyone was getting angry at me. People that like never gave me opinions about anything were like, don't go to India. So it became very clear to me that India was not in my cards. And then all of a sudden I ended up at Full Circle, and it was just an incredible experience. I mean, just mind-blowing in every way. And we had a ceremony night during the program. And all of a sudden, I started having a mystical experience. My third eye opened, and I started connecting with higher dimensional beings and getting light codes. And it was just like an incredible experience. And I mean, I remember during it, I was just like, how did I end up here? Like, how did I end up in Florida at this yoga teacher training? Like I had wanted to go to India, and all of a sudden I'm like having this mystical experience, right? Like my third eye is completely open. I'm seeing like yellow and light codes. I feel interdimensional beings around me. Like it was just this crazy experience, right? And it was like everything that I had been asking for in the meditation, right? And so it came, like Dr. Joe said, like in the way that you least expect it, right? Okay. So I love this little example that he talks about. He says, like, imagine yourself in a dressing room, and when you're standing between 2 mirrors, there's like infinite possibilities, right? Like you see like 100 different reflections of yourself. And imagine that each reflection is like slightly different reality, and that you're actually choosing which one you want. And that's basically what we're doing. That's basically what we're doing. Like, we have so much power. So we are choosing which slice of the mirror we are going to experience in our life. You know, that's so cool. So all possibilities are existing simultaneously in the quantum field, and that we are literally just choosing what we want through our emotions and through our thoughts. And so if we're like, oh, I don't want this person in my life, I don't want this person in my life, well, you're drawing them into your life. And like right now, you know, with what's going on in the social climate, like a lot of people are like, I don't want to get sick. And I just hear that in my heart, like, I'm just like, oh, you know, I want to stay healthy, right? I want to stay healthy would be the positive way to do this. So what I love about meditation is that, you know, the first step in Dr. Joe's, the explanation I explained was like, basically the brain goes from being in an incoherent state, right? Incoherent brain waves kind of look like this. There's a beautiful diagram right there. Into coherent state, right? The one that's above it. And that's a beautiful diagram that I can show it to you, and you can just kind of understand if you're a visual learner. So when we are looking at the material world, and then someone is like texting us and we're looking at this thing and that thing, like there's different neural circuits in our brain for each of those things. And so when we're thinking about one thing, it's like this day and then another thing and then this thing and the phone rings and this. So like we become very incoherent, right? And so when we go into that meditation and we start slowing our brain waves down just through conscious breathing and through looking at the space behind your eyes and enveloping into pure consciousness, all of a sudden your brain waves actually change, right? And now the signal that you're putting out becomes very clear for the quantum world. So amazing. The other thing is a lot of times when you're transforming in this way, we have to learn how to take our energy back. What I mean by this is most of the time, a lot of people are living, I'm going to show another figure because I think it's so beautiful right there. Can you guys see it? So the present moment is in the middle, and there are arrows that show the past and the future. So if we are putting energy, for example, let's say like some negative thing happened. I had this happen to me recently. You know, there was some misunderstanding, and then someone yelled at me, and then, you know, then another misunderstanding happened with another person. This was during a very long family trip, and another person yelled at me from this extended family group, and those situations had a deep impact on me, right? Like I kept repeating them. I kept repeating them over and over and over again. And so Dr. Joe explains, like, how long are you going to live with the same trauma, right? Like, you know, if you replay those things like for a couple days, okay, she's just in a bad mood. Oh, why are you in a bad mood, Asya? Well, someone yelled at me 3 days ago or 5 days ago. Okay, well, if I don't resolve it, then they'll say, like, after a couple months, oh, that's just her temperament. She's just kind of always in a bad mood. And then after a year, oh, that's just her personality. That's just how she is all the time. Like, she's just always in a... So how long are we going to let, you know, something that happened in the past affect our present moment? And so that's the power of taking your energy back and to realize, like, no, I choose to feel happy. I choose to feel whole. I choose to feel excited and well, you know? So when this situation that I'm describing happened, where all these people yelled at me, I never get sick, thanks God. And I got sick. And it was the first time in about 5 years that I had fallen sick. And I realized it was because I had let my vibration actually drop to such a low extent. I was so deeply impacted by what these people had said, and it hurt, right? Like, we're human. When people say stuff to us, it hurt. And so I had to go into meditation. And when I went into meditation, I got the message that forgiveness is important, and that those people were just operating from the state of their consciousness, right? Where they are. And that if I basically forgive them, because like trying to explain like, oh, you wronged me, and wanting an apology and all of that, like, look, people are going to change. Like, why do I need to put more energy into them? Right? Like, instead I should take that energy back and work on myself, right? Like, it's so hard for us to even reform one of our habits. Like, if I tell you, okay, start exercising every day or start doing this thing every day, like sometimes it's hard to motivate ourselves. So when we start telling other people, like, you need to not yell at other people, well, now it's like you're trying to change someone else's habits. And I love this quote that says, when I was a young man, I wanted to change the world. I wasn't able to change the world, so I wanted to change my community. I wasn't able to change my community, so I tried to change my family. Now, as an old man, I realize the only person I can change is myself. If I change myself, I can inspire my community and, I can inspire my family. My family and I can change our community, and indeed, we can change the world. Isn't that powerful? Like, isn't that so powerful? And it's so true. Like, instead of thinking about how this person wronged me and this person did this, it's like, wow, I'm just going to open up my heart and expand and have like even more love and kindness and compassion for everyone that I meet. And in doing this, it's like I'm expanding, I'm raising my frequency to even higher levels, because like something did happen and it was challenging, and I still was able to rise up and reach a even more beautiful frequency. One of the things I love thinking about is just this idea that, like, you know, we are like inside a video game, okay? And everything that you're experiencing in your video game was created by the video game creator. And every obstacle that you're going through was created by this video game creator. But you are also the creator of the video game. Right? So everything that you're experiencing in your reality was created by you. And this is kind of consistent with this idea of, like, you know, contracts that we write prior to our incarnation onto this earth, whether you subscribe or believe to that or not, take it or leave it. But if you do believe in that, like, you know, those are the contracts that you signed up for, right? Those are things that you kind of were like, hey, I want this obstacle. I want to almost be broken and then come out. And, you know, when I had my eczema and all this stuff, like, I was broken at a time. Like, I would cry, and it was like hard time in my life, you know? And now I look back at it, and I, like, even in my journal, I'll be like, thank you so much for the eczema, because it was like my greatest teacher, you know, like such a good teacher. And like, thank you for all of the difficult situations that I've experienced, because they have been my greatest teacher, you know, like even just difficult experiences with colleagues and, you know, life happens. Even this recent one that I explained, like about London, right? Like, that experience was not easy, right? Being yelled at by these people. But it's like, when I was able to just like forgive them, I like expanded my heart even more. And it's like, and to be able to love, you know, the people who even hurt you, that's like an amazing state to be. There's a quote that says, be like the flower that gives fragrance to the hand that crushes it. And I just am like, like, oh, it's so beautiful, right? And like, that's how I want to live my life. Like, I want to be the flower that gives fragrance to even the hands that crush it. Isn't that so beautiful? I'm like starting to tear up. Whew. And I've never talked for so long. I feel like my throat is getting dry. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just like trying to add a little bit of personality into this so that this isn't like so boring. Hopefully this information is like touching you on a soul level somewhere in your heart. I'm trying to deliver it with, you know, from such a sincere place in my heart, and I hope it's being received in that same way. Okay, so the next, so basically, yeah, what I explained, all of this was creating like the electromagnetic signature, becoming nobody, no one, nowhere, and no time, and then finding the generous present moment and creating your strong electromagnetic signature of what you want, literally collapsing wave into matter, like making particles from wave, making matter from energy, like, you know, total creator of your entire reality, which is what we are. Like, we are limitless, right? We are limitless. The only thing that that defines us are the limits that we put on ourselves, right? Okay, so the second meditation technique that Dr. Joe talks about is removing like stuck energy, or like, you know, unblocking those blocked energies. So he talks about how we have to inhale while engaging the Mula Bandha and the Uddiyana Bandha, and focusing on drawing energy up the spine to the pineal gland in your head. So the pineal gland is in the center of the head, and it's a gland that, like, when it's activated, it can actually swell from the size of a gland, like the gland size, to like a golf ball. And during, you know, like hallucinogenics like ayahuasca or LSD or stuff, they say that certain chemicals are produced by the brain during those times that like really open the third eye. And it also can be done just through meditation, right? I was listening to a talk yesterday by a girl, and she was talking about how she was in meditation one day, and she actually went into the effects that happen when you're like on ayahuasca, just by her own body pushing her into that state. So we are so powerful. Like, that's so cool, right? So this meditation specifically is, you can think of it as like a prana tube or a light tube coming up from the base of your spine, all the way up to your pineal gland. And so you're trying to raise the energy that may be stuck in lower centers of the body, up the body. And it's kind of similar to if you've done any Kundalini techniques, and I'm going to show you some of these visuals. You may also have access to these if they're able to get these uploaded, but that's an example of the energy rising. There's a beautiful image of the prana tube that I just described, of raising the energy up. And then basically I'm going to read through this list because I think it's really awesome and powerful, but the energy gets stuck, and you can see that there's like the different energy centers of the body, and I'm going to read what some of the emotions are for the lower energies. So for the root chakra, it says sexual depravity, sexual addiction, sexual anxiety, sexual confusion and pain, trauma from molestation. And then the next energy center up, it says guilt, shame, pain, unworthiness, lack, victimization. And then the third energy center up, it says competition, control, impatience, ego, and self aggrandizement. And so, you know, if you feel a lot of these things, or if you've had past, you know, things that have happened and you haven't done much work on trying to heal this, then this meditation could be super helpful to you, because it's a way forward, right? It's a way to get the energy that may be stuck in these lower energy centers and literally like pull it through the body and bring it into the higher energy centers, which is like the heart space and the third eye and like the throat, and then your crown chakra, which is like, whoa, your connection, and then the chakra that's above the head, right? The first three energy centers are energy consumers. When we overutilize these first three centers, we constantly draw from the invisible field of energy and turn it into chemistry. The field of our body, around our body, shrinks. And then it shows a cool diagram right here of how basically when you are stuck in the first three energy centers of the body, the field of energy around your body actually diminishes and becomes smaller because you're turning it into chemistry. Okay. I also found this really, really cool. You know, right now, I think that this whole concept of like frequency and energy is much more accepted by the outside world. And if you're a yogi and all of this, like, I mean, we talk about vayus and energy body and all this stuff all the time, right? Like pranayama, kosha, and all of that. But this is a really cool graphic, and basically it shows the frequencies, the energies of different emotions. And so you can see how, like, when someone has like a really high frequency, it's literally like they're vibrating at a higher frequency, right? So bliss, freedom, love, joy, appreciation, gratitude are like the highest frequencies, with bliss being like the top one, freedom, love, joy, appreciation. So these are great things to feel in your meditation, because that's literally like helping you raise your vibration, right? The vibration of your physical body. As we move down the list, in the center, there's like will, power, control, and anger. And then as it slows down even more, it's like fear, guilt, shame, suffering, victimization, pain, and lust. And so you can see like how the faster emotions, you know, are like higher frequencies. And then as you lower your frequency, that's when, you know, you have lower emotions. And it's like, you know, that time I got sick in London, I was living in probably suffering. I was angry. I was like feeling so much pain, right? I was feeling all these things. I was feeling scarcity. I just had all these lower emotions. And then all of a sudden I got sick and I was like, oh my God, this is the first time I've been sick in forever, you know? And it was like, I was choosing those lower emotions, lowering my body's vibration. When your body's vibration lowers, you're more susceptible, right? To disease and illness and all of those things. So as we evolve our creative energy, it can be channeled from the first three centers all the way up to the brain and beyond. Each energy center has its own individual frequency that carries its own individual intent, right? And so this is just a simple diagram of the energy centers, the way that they vibrate, which is super cool. Do you see how they have different squiggly lines which that show the different vibrational frequency, and then showing how when you are raising energy to the higher energy centers, your frequency is actually going up. So cool. Okay, the last meditation technique is basically blessings of the energy center. Each energy center is a mini brain that includes neurons and has different hormonal expression. In this meditation, you activate the autonomic nervous system by just resting your awareness on a different energy center of the body from root on upwards. And I'll show you the images. Basically super cool again, that like basically the energy for the different centers can actually not be in their correct alignment, and just through our awareness we can start to shift where those energy centers are. So like you know, where our attention goes, our energy flows. That's a very famous Joe Dispenza tagline, but it's actually really powerful, right? So like if we are focusing on, I'll give you an example, like when I would focus on my eczema, the eczema would just grow like literally every day. Like the more I focused on it, the more I focused on my hair falling out, the more my hair would fall out. The more I focused on my acne, the more acne I would get, right? Like the more I focused on lower emotions, the more I would get that. Like even today, I'll give you a specific example. I was interacting with someone and that person like totally snapped at me, right? They were like really rude. And I kind of just like observed it, and then I observed like what emotions I felt, and I was like, I have three options right now. Okay? Like one option is like I can mirror them, right? I can be like well, if you're going to be rude, I'm going to be rude right back to you. Like if you're going to be stressed, I'm going to be stressed back at you, right? Number two, I could defend myself and be like, oh, I don't deserve to be treated that way, right? And I could like go into defense mode. Or number three, I could show them compassion and I could say, how would love act? And that's actually what I chose. I chose number three, and it was amazing because like I basically was like, oh, they're really busy. They're like really stressed. I feel compassion. I feel sad that they're suffering and they're acting out of like such a low vibration, and obviously they probably don't want to act from that lower vibration, but they are because they're stressed. And so I kind of like acted from this place of like unconditional love. And then I like asked them, hey, it looks like you're really busy. Can I like put food for you? Like, can I help you? Even though they had just screamed at me, right? Like, again, like give fragrance to the flower that crushes you. Like live your life like that and you will see the world change around you. One of my biggest role models is Nelson Mandela. I mean, Nelson Mandela, what a dude, right? Like he literally was locked up his whole entire life. And the very people that locked him up, like he had compassion and love in his heart. And he was able to like transfer all of that emotion that he felt into love. And like, I think that's what we have to do. So I basically asked this person who had been rude to me, I was like, can I put you food? And then they were like, thank you so much. Like, I really appreciate it. And it's like my action caused a better reaction. Now I could be like, hey, I need an apology. Like you didn't speak nicely to me. And, you know, you're speaking out of stress and all of this stuff. But like, that's me dumping my energy into the past. And I just don't want to. Like, I'm going to live in this present moment and I'm going to vibrate in love and gratitude and kindness. And that's all I can do. And by doing that, I'm impacting the world around me because I'm creating a quantum footprint, right? I'm creating a quantum footprint for other people to step into. This idea of quantum footprint is really interesting as well, right? So what is the quantum footprint and how does it work, right? So for example, if I choose to do something a certain way and all of a sudden I'm able to do that thing, right? Like I'm going to give the example of the 4-minute mile or 5-minute mile, whatever it was, like breaking the 5-minute mile, right? So the 5-minute mile had never been broken. And then once it had been broken, or maybe 4-minute mile, I don't remember what it is, but you guys, you can look it up. But once the 4-minute mile had been broken, it was like that right after that, it kept happening by other people, right? Because the first person, it was believed to be impossible, but the first person created a quantum footprint, and then other people could step into that quantum footprint. So we are all super connected, like more connected than we even know. And we're connected by energy, we're connected by this quantum footprint concept, right? So, you know, if we are part of a collective consciousness, right? By you personally choosing higher vibrations, right? Like choosing love, choosing gratitude, choosing to be loving to even the hand that crushes you, you're creating a quantum footprint for other people to do their healing as well. Isn't that so beautiful? Like now someone else who's also suffering from a similar situation as you can actually like step into the footprint that you have created and do the same thing. So that's pretty darn amazing if you ask me. Okay, so I want to lead you through meditations now. If you are on this call with me, I want you to first just like stretch it out. Like if you've been sitting, get some water, and then let's come back and reconvene in a few minutes, and then we'll start the meditation. How about in a 5-minute break? I'm gonna keep this running. I also wanna get some water because I'm feeling super thirsty before I start the meditation, but I'm gonna leave the video running. So go wiggle out. Hopefully this was helpful. And then we'll come back and we'll start the meditations. There's going to be a short exercise we're going to do, so make sure you have your index card. We're going to do that before the meditation, and then we'll start the meditation. So I'm going to give you guys like 2 minutes, get some water, and then we'll meet back. Okay, see you guys soon. Okay, I am back. I hope you guys had a nice break, and we're just going to do one exercise together, and then we'll start the guided meditation, and so you guys can experience all of this awesomeness. I will be leading us for the guided meditation. I'm going to be trying to do the second technique that I described, you know, where we draw the energy out of the lower centers and up to using the prana tube and up to the pineal gland. And then the second part of the meditation will be the electromagnetic signature, which is the first meditation that I described. So for the index card, basically in the center, you want to write down one letter in a capital and in the center of your card. Okay, and the letter is going to be representative of the thing that you are trying to draw in. So like maybe it's a new job, a new relationship, a new maybe like health or whatever is personal to you. So take a moment and just like think of like the thing that's most prominent that would like kind of help shift the most things in your life if you could have that one thing. So just a letter to describe that, like one letter. So I'm going to do this as well, and I'm going to think about what I need, what I'm trying to draw in. Okay, so this is what it looks like so far. I put an H for health. I want to continue to improve my health and be like the most healthy and vibrant version of myself, okay? And then around it, around the capital letter, you're going to put like a squiggly line like that, but you can do it twice. So you're making your electromagnetic field basically around the letter. And then you can take that now and put like rays of light coming off of it. Like that. Okay? And then on the left side, we're going to put intentions, right? So like what is it that you want? And this you could also put in parentheses thoughts, right? So intentions and thoughts. I'm not sure if that's backwards, but basically I wrote intentions and then underneath it I put parentheses thoughts. I think it's backwards, but you'll get the idea. And you can write down underneath it 4 intentions or thoughts about that specific letter that you had written down. So if it's a job, maybe it could be like, you know, flexible work hours or whatever. Describe, you know, specifics of what that would entail, right? Okay, so I wrote down like number 1, for my health, I want a strong, healthy body. Or I feel like I've kind of been working towards this, so I feel like I'm working on it. Like I feel like I'm partially there, but I'm still writing this down. Vibrant skin. I want to be teaching yoga retreats in beautiful places in the world. And I want a yoga home and center that I'm trying to manifest. on a beach. So that's the last thing, right? So this is kind of like all health and job kind of related, all intertwined. Okay. And then on the other side, so I just wrote like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On the other side, you're going to write elevated emotions. Elevated emotions. And underneath it, you can write feelings. So how I started the workshop was, remember I said thoughts are the feelings of the mind. Thoughts are the language of the mind. Feelings are the language of the body. How you think and how you feel creates your state of being. If you want to create a new state of being, you have to change your thoughts and your feelings. So now we're writing the feelings. How would you feel if you had all of the things on the left column, right? Now on the right column, you're going to write down underneath. So for this, I wrote down, if I have all of those, I'm going to be feeling vibrant, full of love, grateful, kind, and blissful. So this is how the card looks, and your card may look very different, but this is going to help you kind of structure yourself in the meditation. Okay, cool. I'm going to put on some music. Actually, we'll just do it without music. We're going to do a meditation now. And I think because we're going to be doing the prana tube thing, I think it's best to be seated. So if you need to sit on a bolster, I'm going to sit on this cute little elephant pillow that my friend made me. So if you want to sit on a bolster or on a pillow, feel free to do that now and get comfortable. Making sure that your spine is like super straight and coming to a beautiful seat. Okay, let's begin. So for the next half an hour, we'll be doing a meditation, and then we will, I'll just have a couple minutes debriefing, and then we will be done. So thank you guys for lasting this long. I know it's been a lot of information, and yoga teacher trainings are so intense and a lot of information, but hopefully this has been super helpful. Make sure to reach out to me and let me know what you thought, and I would love to connect with all of you beautiful and awesome people. Okay.